Welcome to Real 45 with Stefan and Greg Hancock. We vibe out and have real talk, so tune in and check this out. Yeah, today is a new day. Let's seize it now and get hype. We talking about our
Real
careers,
45.
our family, and
Real
just
45.
life.
Yeah, show them how we do it, man. Yo, everybody. Welcome to the Real 45 podcast. I'm Greg Hancock coming at you live. Not actually coming at you live. I'm not a radio disc jockey. I'm just coming at you. Pre-recorded for your enjoyment. Or maybe not. Whatever you wish or don't wish. But anyway, welcome to the next episode. We're moving on. And it's been, what should I say? I'm here alone, actually, first of all. I'm all over the place. And my buddy Stefan here, who joins me on the podcast weekly, is also all over the place. We both kind of do our own thing from time to time. So I'm getting into this solo stuff once in a while, and it's pretty cool. Because I like to read up on what's happening and out there, and right now it's really interesting because it's end of the season. I'm out of Europe, headed back to the U.S. here now, so there's a lot of things going on. It's the silly season, but a lot of things have already happened. Clubs have already signed riders. We've just passed the deadline of the deadline for signing contracts in Poland for the Polish leagues. And that's always interesting because there's like a 2-week open window there. So from 1st of November to the 15th of November, you have this signing time. So they're getting more and more like football all the time. So whether you like it or not, that's what it is. So anyway, many things are happening. So I've confirmed my contract in Sweden for Dakarna yet again. What a cool year we had, and a successful one to say the least. Even though we didn't steal the gold as we talked about earlier, some weeks back, but had a great year, and I'm really, really pleased to have agreed terms with them again and work with the same club. Got great management, great group of people that are in the board, and an awesome team. So together, it doesn't matter what kind of names you have in the team, as long as you got the names that you can work with and build a good, solid backbone. And everybody's out to do the same thing. That's basically to do our best and to win. So it worked good this year. And sometimes you have good luck. Sometimes you make your own luck, and sometimes it just doesn't go the way you plan. But for us, it went pretty damn good all year, and just we had our most off day in the most important meeting of the year, which is not what you want to hear, but hey, it is what it is. It's done and dusted now, and we have a new team, mainly the same riders, and with a couple of small changes, but the main thing is that PK and the guys in the club wanted to keep the same atmosphere, and they want to try to keep the same base, and we know that we can only be better, so we welcome the new guys coming in, and we look forward to bigger and better things. So, new Shorvy, as we say in Sweden, as they say in Sweden. I'm just a foreigner trying to fit in over there. So, it's good too. It's good. It's really good. I got to fit in wherever I go. You'd think that after so many years you'd learn how to fit in, but I do all right. But, there's always a lot to learn. Cultures, food, language. Nah, I'm just kidding you. I fit in pretty damn good, I think. And people are very, very warm and welcoming. So, anyway, Sweden is done and dusted, and Poland too. Just at the last hour, right before it hit the 15th of November, our contract was signed too, and agreed. The same with Luke Becker. He's also agreed on a Warsaw contract with Zhezhov as well. So this is good. He made vast improvements this year, and everybody knows that I've been working alongside Luke, and we've had him at our camp all year and done the best we can to give him all the tools, and then it's up to him to grab them and work with them and see where he wants to go. But he's been amazing, a hard worker. It's been a heck of an experience for him. He at any time probably could have just said, "Screw you guys, I'm out of here. I can't handle this." But no, we gave him we made him work for it. Sometimes it was harder than others, and he experienced some pretty crazy things along the way, from wet, crazy meetings, racing, to traveling and flights being canceled, delayed, and missing connections, or falling asleep in the airport and missing your flight. Yeah, Luke, you have got a story to tell for everybody. And I hope you made notes about all this stuff or kept a diary, because I know you're the kind of kid that sits down and writes in a diary in between watching Speedway videos and more Speedway videos and then a few more Speedway videos and then working on your bike. So that kid is glued to learning about Speedway, watching video after video after video, and he can probably tell you what lap, what track conditions, what changes were made. He's into it. He doesn't miss a beat, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a way that he's so determined to get it right. So stoked to have him back with us in Rzeszów for 2019, and moving on to other things too. You know, he's got other deals on the table right now. Clubs from England are approaching him, which is really cool. Doors are opening and people are interested. So that means that he's doing what he was supposed to do, or what he set out to do, I should say, and to go on and be a big hit in the sport. He's going to be big. I believe in the kid, and like I said, he's so down to earth, and he's got a good family, and he's got good people behind him, and he's got us on his side too. So I think we can do the best we can to help him to reach his goals, and the rest is up to him. Grab the bull by the horn, as they say. So Luke, rock and roll, dude. Big things ahead. Anyway, so there's more going on. We've got new riders in the team in Rzeszów now too. We've got Linus Sundström, who's not a new face to anybody, but he'll be new in Rzeszów, and a guy I've ridden with in the past in Motala in Sweden for the Pirates there for some years. And Linus is still quite a young kid, I should say, or a young rider in the game. He's been around for a while, but he's no first of all, he's no slouch, but he's also not he's not a veteran like myself. So he's got a lot of great years ahead of him. He's been showing his form in the national team for Sweden too, and been a driving force. He rode for Gorzow for a couple of years, and was basically one of those guys who was a victim of being the reserve rider, which really makes it tough if you haven't got the team spot consistently. You get brought in and brought out in between injuries, and when you got a good team, it's really tough to get a position when they've got other riders already there. So we look forward to having him full time, preferably in the team here in Rzeszów for 2019. So him and Kai Hülkenberg is another kid who's just been coming up in leaps and bounds. And what's rad is Germany in particular. It seems that they have really been turning the tables as far as speedway talent over the last 5 years. I've been watching the kids from the 85s up to the 125s and 150s, right up into the 250 classes. Now they have the world champion Ben Ernst, who I saw him last year in Prague in the junior the world championship for the 250s. The first time I saw him there, and I was so impressed with that kid, and so determined. He works so hard. He's good in the start. He's got great equipment, and then this year he went out there and just smoked it. So I was not surprised at all, because he's so talented and what do you say? He's humble, and yeah, I don't know him super well, but from what I have seen, he's always super nice, super polite, and comes up and asks questions and says hello, and the kid can ride a motorcycle. So it's bitching to see that Germany is making a comeback with just that. He's just one of many. And then Selena, in the girl who's just, she's so rad, because they're sadly there aren't more girls in the sport, but she works so hard and is not afraid of anything. I think that she's probably more tough and ambitious than most of the guys out there, and I don't mean that negative. I mean that in a super positive way, because she's rad. She doesn't give up. She's got what do you say, adjustable handlebars. It feels like she'll see if there's a gap there that's just barely big enough to fit the handlebars through, and it feels like she just rolls the bars in, goes through the gap, and then rolls them out and lays on over the handlebars of the next guy and just drops it on him and slows him down and pushes them, bumps them. Cool, super cool. So you got them, and then we move it on up. We got Kai Hülkenbeck, who's just been coming up in leaps and bounds and showing his true form. He did well for the German team in the Speedway of Nations this year too, and he's just a guy who, some of these guys seem pretty quiet. You got the Riss brothers too, and they're so solid on the track, and they're so tough, and they're still very quiet. They just kind of listen and sit back and do their thing, and they just come through, and you don't really expect it, and suddenly, bam! These guys are in front. They're making good starts. They're smooth on the track. They're solid on the track. They're so consistent, and these are the kind of guys that you want on your side. So stoked to have Kai Hülkenbeck on our team too. So look forward to it. Then we got Ernest Kolza and Josh Grzoniak, who many of you know him as a Australian guy, but he's also a Polish guy. He's got Polish history or family roots. So he's on a Polish passport and can ride as a Pole in our team, like Rune Holte did, but in a different way. And this is cool. We've got a lot of options for the Polish guys. They're joining Karol Baron as well. So Karol, who's not a new name. He's a guy who's established and definitely a huge hero for Rzeszów, a local guy too, and has had some remarkable scores, and he's tough on the track. So you need these kind of guys, and now they got backup. So them, and then we've got Kowalski, the young junior coming out of Tarnów, who's a what do you want to call him? A student from one of Janusz Kolodje's training camps that he runs for the kids, right up to the top guys up here, up to 21 years old, I think. At least 18 anyway. And this kid has been very much talked about for a while, and you see him coming in. He's really, really solid. Good rider, of course, because he's got a guy like Janusz Kolodje telling him what to do. You can't go wrong with a guy like that. He's such a good dude. He knows the fundamentals of the sport. He teaches them how to ride safe, stable, and calculated, and it's really fun. I've seen a lot of guys come out of Janusz's school, and I like what he does. There should be more guys in Poland and in Speedway around the world doing what Janusz Kolodje is doing. So hats off to you, Janusz. And that pretty much sums up our team. We have more guys in the lineup too that they're working on. And we got Aaron Summers in the team as well. So these kind of things are, for us, it's really tough for the guys to have, to be a reserve in the team. You always feel like, oh man, I'm going to be fighting for a place. But in the end, the team's got to cover themselves, I guess. And as long as you're not racing each other in practices, which they tend to do in Poland, every training match or every practice session becomes a race because you're fighting for a team place, and that's rough. In my opinion, it's I think that's too much sometimes, that you put unnecessary pressure on your riders, and it should be more about building up and trying to help each other to be better. So we did that in Rzeszów this year, and it seemed to work pretty good. Of course, they're still putting guys up at the tapes and making them, go against each other. Not making them, but trying to get them to want to do it. And I think that's crucial, that they get up to the starting line and know that, you want to make the start on your colleague or your teammate next to you, but at the same time, you don't want to make 5 starts on him because he's your teammate and you're trying to encourage him. You want to make sure that they're making starts and beating you too. So there's a fine line there, You're trying to help bring these guys up, and you're trying to teach them something. Or, it could be your closest buddy who's also the dude who's maybe one of your most stiff competition in other leagues or in the championships. So you want to beat them, but you don't want to beat them down. So, I'm a team guy. When you're riding for the team, I believe in helping each other to win. So this thing about trying to make sure that you win all your practice heats is something else. And it's a different system. I came from a different school, and I like that school. So I will continue working with that, and hopefully we can build a good, successful team for 2019. Extraliga is the goal to get there. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very tough, in fact, because there's some strong, strong teams in the first division. And you can even look at a team like Rybnik now, who's got guys like Troy Batchelor, too, and Gregor Leguta's coming back after his stint with, being out of the league for a year and a half. So, there's a lot. That's just one team. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to give the benefit of the other clubs of talking about how good they are. But anyway, it's Speedway, and there's always talk. There's always news. I've been touching up on the international news in different countries. Excuse me, needed a sip of water there. And if you look at changes, every year there happens to be changes. Poland in particular, they make changes constantly. There'll be a big long list of amendments to contracts, to the rules, to the regulations, and every year it's something more. So it's like a full-time job just staying in touch with all the changes that go on. And sometimes those changes I think are really good, and many of them you feel like unnecessary or what are they doing it for? But it's it's their business. They're trying to build the sport and make it bigger, stronger, and that's what it's all about. If they didn't have criticism, it wouldn't be as much fun. It wouldn't be interesting. And I just hope that everybody continues on building the right thing. The only thing that always bums you out is penalties. There's penalties for everything, and that's the hard part. So we want to go racing to go win. We don't want to go racing to try to avoid paying a penalty. And you just need people around. You have to have extra people in your crew now that are just watching everything you do and everything you say and how you stand and how you act and how you look and all that kind of stuff, which in the league there is it's really tough. It's really tough. So they've created a very demanding sport. So at the high level that they want to be and that they're trying to grow it to, it comes with a lot of demand, and it comes with a lot more work than it used to be. So one thing we got to remember, though, is we're there to go race and we're there to go win. We're not there to go pay penalties. So we got to go hard and try to be champions. So let's look positive and let's move forward and make this a good, successful 2019. Hopefully we can reduce the number of people being owed and the number of troubles people are having, whether it's there's always force majeure, there's flight problems, there's an injury, and Speedway is an interesting sport, because there aren't many, if there are any at all, sports around the world that allow riders to ride in 3 different leagues or 4 different leagues or 5 different leagues for that part at the same time. So I can ride in Poland, I can ride in Sweden, I can ride in England, I can ride in Denmark, I can ride in the Czech Republic, Germany. I can ride in all these different leagues during the same season, and it's amazing how it actually works. All those different leagues run on different days, and some teams or leagues run on the same day as another league. So then you've got to have which club do you ride for first, which one is the most demanding, which Poland really wants you to say they are the number one club. So it always comes down to your federation and what's on the demand. Who's your number one club? Is it Poland? Is it Sweden? Is it Denmark? For me, we don't have the league in the USA, but we have our national championship. So it's always up to them what they want us to do. And some years we have to be home, and some years they, depending on the situation, you manage to make a deal with the federation to allow you to miss the championships, which I've managed to do over the years. But there's been a lot of good riders coming up, so it's made it easier. It's never easy, and still trying to own up to it. So how does this work? Most people don't understand it. When I talk to a company, when I talk to a sponsor, do I talk to a potential sponsor, or just the media in general? In the USA in particular, they don't get this, because if you talk to a newspaper in Southern California, for instance, and you tell them what you do, and they just look at you like, no way, you really do that? How many days out of the year, or how many races you do out of the year? I live in California, and I have my base here I have my base over in Europe. In Sweden, and you go racing for basically the better part of 6 months out of the year, and then you always have some time of the build up, training matches and testing and stuff. You have to be there for certain things, so you got to go over a little bit earlier in the year, and then you have to work hard, and then you got to race. Like for me, it's 75 events approximately a year without riding in the UK. But if I ride in the UK, like many of the riders do, you ride 2-3 leagues. You end up riding over 100 races a year easily, 100, 120, combine that with the GP and all that stuff. So in 5.5, 6 months and all those races, it's a lot, because you got to consider the traveling in between. And many of you listening to this already know all this, but it's unheard of for many. And even the people in the sport over there, they listen to it. Yeah, that's what they do. But when they actually come over here and see it and understand or visualize how it works, they just go, whoa, man, that is so out of normal. Cool, super cool at the same time. But then you understand how much effort and lack of sleep and travel and airplanes and hotels and cars and all that just before you get to the race that lasts 2 hours, and then you get back in the car and you do it all again. So it's what we do. It's all relative. It's what we love to do. It's not for everybody. As we've seen, some riders have come and gone very quickly, whether it's been from the U.S. or Australia or guys that have to leave and travel so far from other parts of the world to come to Europe and make a new life. But you pretty much have to be willing to give up everything to do it. It's not give up for good, but it's a give up for the period. What do you want to do? You want to do this for a year? Do you want to do it for 5 years? Do you want to do it for a career, like some of these older guys talking on this podcast have done? So it's a challenge, And Luke Becker's seeing that now. We've had Brock Nickel over here for some months doing some training too, and they understand that, man, it's not all roses. You got to get up early, you got to do your bikes, you got to make sure that you're looking over things, and that stuff isn't going to break, and tires are going to get mounted. You're not going to have any problems. There's never that much downtime really, because you've got to make sure the demand today is that you can't have any mishaps, you can't have any breakdowns. You got to have mechanics, you got to have everybody in place, and if everyone's not playing their part, or you show up at the track and something's broken that you didn't see when you cleaned it, you got issues. So it's game on, It's part of the job. We love it, and as long as that's in the heart, you love it, and you're bleeding for it, it goes great. And it's never easy. There's a lot of speed bumps along the way, and a lot of tests. So you either welcome the test and find a way to get over the speed bump or the roadblock and get around it, or you just stop right there and go on and do something else. Choice is yours. That's my motivational part for the moment. So anyway, the UK, they have also just finished their annual AGM meeting, I think they call it. And I only know this because I'm working alongside Luke and his plans for the year ahead. So the phone is ringing at the moment, and the rules have been decided. And I can see now that this year's been a rough year for the UK too, with clubs closing down. Lakeside going out, Rye House on the brink, or more or less it looks like they could be going out too. If this is news. I'm reading the news, and I haven't heard this right from the horse's mouth, of course, but for John Cook in particular, coming out of Rye House or Lakeside and going now, looks like he's going to move back to Eastbourne, his former home club, and could be taking riders with him. If that happens, it looks like, as I read it, that Rye House could be finished too. What a shame, It's never fun to see clubs disappear, especially those that have been super established and been pretty successful or what have you. But it's there, and then you hear stories, clubs like, I've heard even rumors that Workington was in trouble. I hope that's not true, But then you see a club like Glasgow they're just killing it. They're doing so good. Maybe, I don't know financially if they're killing it, but they're investing and they're working hard to try to build something. And I'm sure that it's a give or take, but they've got good people behind them. They've got good sponsors, and that's what it takes. But so they have to build a good team. They've got to build a successful team to back their mission. So it's cool. Now you got Buster Chapman has gone in, as I see it here, and bought both Ipswich and Peterborough in the UK, and is bringing them up to the Premiership, the top league in England now too. And this has got to be positive for Speedway. They've signed a new deal with the BT Sport, and it's you can see, it looks like all their stats are up from what you see on the social media. Profiles are up. Everything is up. So that's a bonus. Maybe, whether it's 1% or 2% or 25%, it's up, and that's healthy, because it's been on the brink of all sorts for the last few years, not just in England but all the leagues. And we need positive news. So these kind of things, Buster's been around for many, many years. Obviously, most people know him as being the chairman of the BSPA and also working with Kings Lynn forever and ever. I can say that because I've known him forever and ever. And he's been there. And a good guy, and he wants to see the sport survive. So we need more people like Buster in the game. And now it's converting averages. I see that they're doing that too. They want to stop some of the top riders in the Premiership from dropping down, doubling down as they call it, and riding in lower in the Championship League there too, which I agree with. I don't think the top guys should be dropping down at the same time when they're riding for a top team. I don't want to sound hypocritical because I've dropped from I don't like to say drop, but I've moved from the Extraliga in Poland. I went down to second division team, and basically on an offer that was quite the challenge to go from, to help bring the club work and help the club to achieve to go from second division up to the first division and eventually to the Extraliga. So that was a different kind of a challenge, which many have their views on why it worked, but that's the plain and simple truth. It's a great challenge, and I'm stoked that I've had the opportunity to do it. And looking at this, riders riding in the top league, they want to double down to the championship, which I think is really tough because the natural progression of every league in every country, I think that perhaps someone like myself shouldn't really be allowed to ride probably in the second division. That's not really the way it should be, to go from the status that I'm at, or my place in the league, I should say, instead of status, and be able to drop down in the second division should be one of the first steps of coming out of the juniors and moving up and building your level at that league, and then moving up to the first division, which obviously you're increasing your ability, your consistency, your confidence, and your results. So, and then moving on, obviously, to the top league, which is the Extraliga in Poland or the Premiership in England. I think it should be a stepping stone. And same in Sweden, there's a lot of top riders that can ride in the Allsvenskan or even in the Division 1, which would be ideal, I think, in the future to see that as being maybe more national riders of the local country riding in those divisions on the way up, whether it's first division or it's second division in Poland. They classify them differently in each country. So the same in England. Maybe the Championship league should be a mix, maybe up to a specific average, and then you have to move up to the top league. But then again, that's not easy either because there aren't a lot of teams there that have places. However, you got to think about the future, and we got to give the youngsters the chance to succeed and not be racing against top guys every other heat while they're trying to learn. And if they can't beat these guys more frequently in the beginning, it can be a downer if they're not tough. But there's always going to be a handful that have the ambition and they're going to figure it out. And my goal is to beat the top guy, to beat the Thomas Golub in the group week in and week out, which is never going to be easy if you're in Poland, or to beat the Scott Nichols and Craig Cook and Robert Lamberts. I want to beat that guy every week. It's not easy to do that, but you need to have a goal. You need to have a target to aim for, and I think it would be good to have more of a stepping stone and let the national riders really exceed, maybe limit the number of non-national guys, or make it more demanding that you should have at least 5 UK riders in your team or 5 Polish riders in your team, and continue letting it go, because it's just going to be, otherwise you don't see that many. England in particular, there haven't been that many riders coming through over the years. The USA is the same, but we don't have a league. The same in Germany probably, and the same in some other ones. But if you got the chance to develop and race against each other more frequently, there might be more riders coming through for the future. It's difficult in this day and age because it's all one world, really. So how do you justify that if you're trying to build a winning team? So on that note, I'm a writer. I'm not a promoter. I'm not involved in this stuff. I'm just voicing my opinion here, kids, people of the world, people of the Speedway world. I talk a lot, as you know. So anyway, there's much more going on. I think that a guy like Luke Becker, for instance, going to the UK is a good move for him now. He's ready for that, to have a more permanent place in the racing and a more regular racing schedule. Different tracks, different surfaces, different shapes, sizes, and more importantly, going from the tapes so frequently in the UK as you do. So you guys do the better part of 40 meetings a year at least, I think. So that's the kind of stuff that a guy like Luke needs. And getting in there will be probably one of the best moves he can do. So it's just to see where he's going to go now. And you can watch and listen and see what happens. But he's close to making a deal in the UK, and hopefully you're going to see Luke Becker, the next American, making the trip over. So he's solid. He's got a good backbone. He's got a good solid group behind him. So now it's up to him to get out there and achieve. The way it is now for me, if we look at it, I am planning my 2019 season and looking at every possibility for going back to win the World Championship. I have the league stuff, which we've already talked about, but now it's bound to GP. Don't you want to win? Of course I want to win. I love winning, and I don't mind working hard to do it. So the Grand Prix is getting harder and harder every year, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't hard before, but things are changing, and there's a lot of youngsters coming in now, and it feels like, as we've said before, that the overall lineup of the Grand Prix is so huge. It's getting so tough all the way through, and the consistency is there. So you got to be on your game. You got to have good equipment, but it's not just the equipment. You got to be smart on the track. You've got to be able to read situations, and if you don't have all those ingredients, luck will only get you so far. So for me, the riding ability, I've been around, and I know a thing or two, but I never know it all, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So watching all the youngsters and what they do and how they do it, talking to different people and listening and learning is the key to being in the game and staying in the game, let alone staying fast. The other great thing for me is I have so many good people around that have shown interest in me over the years and continue to help me to be better and be stronger and to be faster on the track. And if I don't have that ambition or that will to win, what's it all for then? So everybody knows for me in particular, I look to surround myself with people that give me that feeling of what do you want to say, that extra belief and support of what can we do to make you quicker, and have you thought about this, and have you thought about that? I've watched some races and I saw that this happened or that happened, or you're getting too much wheel spin there, or the bike's nervous here and nervous there, and the tire didn't do this for you, it seems like. But I'm different, everybody's different, and for me, it's being able to read tracks for sure. The tracks are getting a little bit more consistent these days, which is awesome because it's the FIM is working really, really hard to make it safe, and they want to make it the bikes not so aggressive first of all, and they also want to reduce costs because they feel it's getting out of hand, which of course, it's getting expensive. But when you go racing and you want to win, it costs to win. However, they don't want it to get out of hand because clubs are in financial troubles, and that comes down to paying riders and riders needing the money to pay for the equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So not easy to get sponsorship and sell everything. So you got to be extraordinary to make it work. And if you're willing to go that extra mile, you make it. You do that, and you succeed in that way. However, the long term is that they want to make the engines to be a little bit more reliable, less expensive on the maintenance or the servicing, and those things, that's a difficult one to stand on. You got guys and who rely on that business to make a living too. However, if the FIM gets to the point where they start deciding that it's going to have to be a little bit more standardized in that sense, then we got our work cut out for us. What are they going to do? What kind of parts are they going to come up with? Are we going to end up running rev limiters? Are we going to end up using fuel injection? Are we going to end up having sealed engines for championships or things like that? So many things have been thrown out there, and you're going to hear so many rumors, and some of it sounds fantastic because I think it can be good, and some of it sounds like, I don't know about that. There's something about Speedway that is still very prehistoric to many, but it's also still very raw and real, and that's the fact that we have naturally aspirated carburetors, and we still have no brakes, and the chassis are still very basic. So there's so much skill to riding the motorcycle, building an engine with the right horsepower to eliminate too much wheel spin, to get enough wheel spin, to not overspin here and there, and not be completely unable to be unrideable. If it's too nervous and it's grabbing the ground too much here and there, and the track gets slightly grippy or with ruts in it and some bumps, which we're trying to eliminate these days because we want good solid racing and no accidents. The bikes have outgrown most of the speedway tracks around the world. Sadly, there's so much money and effort that we as riders and the manufacturers have to put into developing the bikes to make them fit within the racetracks that haven't changed for many, many years. It's really tough. It's hard. But we do it, and we manage, and now they're trying to probably slow us down a little bit, where in many other aspects, as I've even mentioned myself, I think it would be good if some racetracks start to improve on the size, the width. Basically, the size doesn't probably need to be altered that much. However, if you change the width of a racetrack, the size is going to change. So, Touring, for example, as I always talk about, awesome, killer, great. It's so wide, and you have so many racing lines, yet they don't have to put hardly any dirt on it at all, and you get some of the best racing that the sport has ever seen. So there's your quote, end quote, right there. I think Lejno is another track. It's also usually is pretty wide. If it gets, they tend to make it a little bit deep and rough for the home track, which, that's how they do it. But these days, I think that they're getting a little more demanding in the leagues, especially in Extraliga 2, that tracks should be more consistent and more safe and better for racing in that sense. If it gets too grippy or too bumpy, it becomes follow the leader, and the only chance for passing is a mistake or somebody, purposely moving you out of the way or not purposely moving you out of the way. And then you just got, okay, next time, that's it, race is over. So I would really like to see that. I would like to see clubs start to look at that. They're improving the stadiums constantly, but we need to think about the racetracks as well. The racetracks is the stage for us to perform on. And if you give us a stage, we perform. So something to keep in mind. I did a very interesting test a couple of days ago, and in a whole nother aspect and a whole nother type of speedway, which will be, it'll probably make public in the future here, in the near future. But it was quite interesting and really, really fun, super challenging. It goes against the exact, what do you want to say? What's the best word to use? And the classic type of speedway riding. It makes you think, you got to think a little bit opposite. So it's not about being the quickest guy to the throttle and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say any more. But it was very interesting, and I think that there might be something new on the horizon for the motorcycle sport speedway, which will be really, really fun to watch. And I'm always glad to be a part of this kind of stuff because I think it's a challenge. I love a challenge, as you know. So that's going to be cool. Tires, that's another major thing. Endless tried so hard this year to get into the game and be a competitive force, which was they were at the end of it. In the end of the year, they were probably, I'm not scratching their heads, but scratching their heads at one point because they developed a tire that was made to the regulations. However, you can see that there are some fine lines of tuning and finding the right ingredients, the right tread pattern, the right tire patch pattern, all these kind of different things that makes the Mitas tire so good that guys couldn't give up and move over to the Endless. But I just met these guys in Milan and heard what they got going on, and I have to say it's pretty impressive that they don't give up. They've invested a lot of money in the sport so far, being a major supplier or I shouldn't say supplier, a major player for the Speedway GP. And they now are working so hard still and have I think they've done 21 or 22 different tire combinations this year. Maybe more, I could be wrong. But it's at least 21, 22 different ones, and I've tested all of them. So it's, you can get lost in all that too, but you have to go back to back with the tires that we use today. And I've tried all the tires this year, as I always do. And I'm still trying. I'm still testing now and got more equipment coming here in the next couple of weeks. So it never stops. And for me, that's what keeps me rolling. That's what keeps me hungry. And I'll take my holiday in between. So it's all about wanting to win, and tires are another thing. And then you've got engine manufacturers. A lot of rumors out there about different engine tuners, what they got going on, and some that are going to stick around, some that could even be hanging up the Speedway tuning gloves, as I hear. There's a lot of rumors, but that will be a sad time to see anybody leave the sport. But it's a lot of demand, a lot of work out there that causes people to, at some point you got to call it a day. But it's going to be cool. I'm testing all the time. Got new things on the go and new ideas, and that's what works for me, man. It's all cool. So, Speedway GP, the Hancock High team worked pretty decent this year. We got our feet wet, and I want to continue to grow my side of the Grand Prix team. I think that we have a lot to offer, and we've got a lot of things that we want to do for 2019. So let's hope that we can make it all work. We've got some good partners behind us and working to find more partners. So watch this place too. It's great to have Speedway at this level and knowing that we can help to give back to our sponsors and give them something more, not just from a sponsorship point of view, but from an advertising and marketing standpoint. So that's what it is. And on that note, I think that's all for today. I've given you way too much information. And actually haven't given me anything. So just gave you my opinion again today, guys. So anyway, thank you for listening. It's going to be another good week coming up. And wish everybody out there a great day. And we feel bad for all these people dealing with the fires here in California. So our hearts and positive vibes to everyone out there, and think of that when you think you got times are tough, and remember that it's nice to have a roof over your head and good people around you. So continue, be good to each other, and have a great day. Love y'all, and we'll see you next week on the Real 45 podcast. Peace.
Welcome to Real 45 with Stefan and Greg Hancock. We vibe out and have real talk, so tune in and check this out. Yeah, today is a new day. Let's seize it now and get hype. We talking about our careers, our family, and just life. Yeah, share my story with you. Inspiration like every day. Real 45, we gon' keep it live. I keep episodes on replay. Hey, Real 45. Yeah, Real 45. Show them how we do it, man. Yeah.